Why are you insisting on aggravating me today?
Finally, 2021. Otherwise known as the 2020 do-over. One way the world, or at least America, is kind of getting a do-over is the upcoming inauguration of a new president. Whether you're happy about it or not, it's happening. Get over it and stop being dramatic. One sign this is happening is finding bits and pieces of the current president's administration in the dumpster, such as this made-for-TV movie, Rudy, the Rudy Giuliani Story. That title's a little redundant, but anyway. Released in 2003, so after the whole America's Mayor thing, but before the whole... well, this. As you can see, Rudy Giuliani is played by James Woods. See, this is a bad sign. Always be wary of quotes on movie posters or covers that have ellipses in them. Sure, it sounds complimentary to James Woods, but the full quote might actually say, "Woods made a terrible movie, but how many women in New York has Giuliani nailed?" Just to prepare you, the screenwriter credited for writing the movie is not the guy who wrote the actual script. You see, his script was thrown out by James Woods because it was not pro-Giuliani enough. Right. Well, let's do this. The naked city. The mayor sits in the back of the cab and looks out at all of the lights as they flash by. Lights from coffee shops and boutique stores and bars. All filled with people who have no idea, no clue, no warning that a terrible movie is being filmed outside.
It's like politics, isn't it? I swear to God. The better job you do, the more they want to eat you.
Let's not be modest about our talents here. I will point out that at this point in the story, Giuliani's overall approval rating in New York City was 50%. You're half-assing your job there according to your own standards.
Well, my name's Poison right now.
Not a very fast-acting poison, apparently. Someone pulls him out of this restaurant to tell him that an aircraft has hit one of the twin towers in the city, and this is the first time our camera switches frame rates. I realize they want it to match the real 9/11 footage they put in, but it's still really jarring as it switches back and forth throughout the movie and even through the 9/11 scenes themselves. I will also warn those of you old enough to remember the attacks that this footage is really hard to watch, even as someone who watched it on television from several hundred miles away. I can't even imagine what this would do to somebody who was actually in New York when this happened, or somebody who actually survived the attacks themselves. So I'm going to show as little of that footage as possible. We flash back now to 1982 when Giuliani was interviewed in Miami by soon-to-be second wife Donna Hanover. The two begin dating that night, their first date being dinner next to a green screen.
What happened to your marriage?
What indeed happened to Regina, Rudy Giuliani's first wife and second cousin? Yes, Rudy Giuliani married his second cousin. A thing that, though legal in most of the world, is banned in many states in America and even a criminal offense in some. And conveniently not mentioned anywhere in the movie. Fun fact, the state with the strictest laws against this practice of marrying your cousin? Texas. I know, that surprised me too. Now, according to the infallible source that is Wikipedia, Giuliani did not know Regina was his second cousin at the time of the marriage, and when he did find out, he had the marriage annulled by the Catholic Church, even though they had already been divorced for at least a year at that point. Film Rudy Giuliani's response to this question, however.
I'm not much of a cuddler. You know, Democrats always talked about things getting better. Republicans did whatever they could to make them better.
Gee, you think the writer was a Republican? The two get married, and now Rudy is a federal prosecutor.
My name is Rudolph Giuliani. I've wanted this job for a long time.
Yay for goals!
You were lazy prima donnas, spending 2 and 3 years on cases you were never going to make.
Can we take our applause back?
How, you may wonder, do we end corruption?
By scaring the living shit
Out of the criminal. Don't speak. Get out.
Now, is this supposed to have actually happened, or did the filmmakers think this qualified as an action sequence? Nope, here's our action sequence, jogging and teasing mobsters. Reminder, 9/11 was a thing and Giuliani was there. So they're happily married, except when Giuliani is mad that mob bosses are a thing and doesn't go to bed with his wife when she asks. He then comes up with the brilliant idea on how to use the RICO Act to bring down mafia members by charging them with conspiracy. This is a controversial thing, and I could research the details on this, but I don't want to. So Giuliani has dinner with insider trading informants and threatens them with legal action, gets a guy to wear a wire to bring down the king of the junk bond market, Michael Milken. abortion, and Giuliani dances with his wife while people congratulate him. Oh, yeah, and they apparently have a kid now. Giuliani is thinking of running for mayor of New York. Did that sound really boring to you the way I described it? Because that's exactly how it was in the movie. Only I saved you several minutes. See, I'm a benevolent sadist. This guy thinks Giuliani is crazy. I mean, an anti-abortion Republican as mayor of New York?
I'm a Catholic. I oppose abortion. In my heart.
I could say many things about this topic, but I am a film review channel, so I will keep this brief. I have bad news for my fellow Americans who want to overturn Roe v. Wade. Banning abortions will not eliminate abortions. All that'll do is deregulate them, and that'll make them more dangerous, and now you'll have a bunch of dead and damaged uteruses on your hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Banning it will make it so you can hide the issue and pretend it doesn't exist. People are going to get abortions whether you give them permission or not. If, however, you can reduce the demand for abortions or the need for abortions, then you can reduce the numbers safely. It's called proper sex education. Make laws requiring schools to tell their students the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about safe sex and contraceptives. Because just like abortions, people are going to have sex whether you give them permission or not. The less unwanted pregnancies there are, the less demand for abortions there are. I know, radical thinking, sex education? What? But push past your instinct to write in the comments how I'm wrong and, by the way, an ugly bitch, and think logically about it for a few minutes. We'll wait. Are we good? Good. Giuliani campaigns for mayor on his hard-on crime hard-on, and Mrs. Giuliani is pregnant with baby number 2. But that's not important because some guy was paid $1 to wash his windshield.
This is what's wrong with this whole city. Come on, let's go.
Surprisingly, he loses the election to David Dinkins. By the way, 9/11 was a thing. Dinkins is having issues and there are protests in the streets, and oh, what do you know, just in time for the next mayoral election. Meanwhile, Rudy and Donna are having marital problems. We know this because they are fighting.
I do want you behind me.
I'm behind you.
But I'm voting for the other guy. Christine is Giuliani's new press secretary, and apparently she's controversial because she's outspoken, I guess? But the hot-tempered Giuliani wins the election, and the family goes on vacation, and they bring the press secretary as a babysitter. That is not weird at all, is it? Donna wants to be more involved with his career, but Giuliani tells her to stay home with the kids like a good little housewife. Meanwhile, don't forget 9/11 was a thing and wasn't Giuliani magnificent in it? There is a lot of excess money going towards new construction projects. Sherlock Giuliani leaves a room of VIPs waiting to crack the case, which leads him to these 2 women, one of whom hates the fact that the other one leaves her used tea bags around everywhere, which is for some reason leading to the plans not getting to the transportation department on time. Right. Giuliani orders a new table for the tea and tells the women to get along. See, tracking down the root of the problem, not just putting a band-aid over it. Did this incident actually happen? I don't know. It seems a little bit incredible, but good on him if it did. Giuliani wants to read a speech to his wife and get her opinion, but it's 2 a.m. and she has to get up for work at 5. Selfish bitch. So he calls his press secretary, and we can tell from the music that she is becoming a threat to their marriage. Is anyone else kind of bored yet? Would any of you notice if I switched to a different movie? You would, huh? Okay. Giuliani and the press secretary are getting close, but does anything actually happen between them? It's vague, because Giuliani can't look too bad. Meanwhile, 9/11! Praise Giuliani and his perfection! Back to the 90s, an unarmed black man was shot 41 times by police because... Do I really need to explain that? Giuliani's problem is how is he going to explain that?
What do you expect him to do, Rudy? Wait to see if it was a gun?
Yes! That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Giuliani is vague at the press conference, so now there are protests against him. But it is, of course, not at all Giuliani's fault. Poor Giuliani. 9/11! But 4 days later, and notice how the busy mayor takes time to console this woman whose husband's body was just found. Giuliani's father had a criminal record? How scandalous! How bad it makes Giuliani look for some reason. But remember, nothing is Giuliani's fault. This film could use, I don't know, an actual plot, a death, a musical number.
I have James Woods.
Shut up, Peter Griffin! And no, One night, Giuliani meets Judith, and they immediately hit it off, I guess. Nothing on screen or in the dialogue would lead you to guess as such, but it does lead him to transfer Christine to a position not near him. Giuliani's coughing, he has prostate cancer it turns out, Judith is with him through the good and the bad, and Giuliani asks for a legal separation from his wife in a press conference. Real smooth, Rudy. His approval rating tumbles. He drops out of his campaign to run for senator. 9/11. Giuliani speaks at a number of funerals for first responders and sleeps on Judith's shoulder in the car. And, the end? What? I mean, I'm not complaining that the movie's finally over, but what the hell was that? I feel like I shouldn't need to explain why this movie's in the dumpster, but here's a quick summary just in case. Not only is it boring and questionable in its accuracy, it's extremely dated. Between the green screen and the roller coaster that is the subject's reputation, it's not a film that would appeal to modern audiences. As for older audiences, the 9/11 footage makes it unappealing to watch as well. Basically, this comes across as just a film for Giuliani and James Woods to jack off to. And nobody wants to watch that kind of film, especially now that I put that image in your head. Yeah, don't bother. This film's just gonna make a majority of you sad for some reason or another, and we've had enough sadness for the past year, thank you very much. So let's move on to more amusing films to riff on.
I'm not much of a cuddler.
Someone to care for, to be there for. I have James Woods.
Someone to do for, mortal true for. You have James Woods.